All right, so we are going to be officially live in 3, 2, there we are. Welcome back to the
Officially.
Changed Physician. I'm Melissa Katie, the Challenge Doctor, here with my co-host, Dr. Kevin Cuccaro. And if you see this on Challenge Doctor, I'm just cross-posting from the Facebook page of the Changed Physician. If you don't know what that's all about, then go to thechangedphysician.com, learn more about us and our community and what we're up to. And you can check out all the podcast venues. We always post our regular episodes on video format as well on YouTube. And so you can find us there as well. We'd love any comments, ratings, subscribing, whatever you want to do. We love to have engagement. So thank you for joining us on our Saturday Salutations, which is all about salutations, saying hi. I've been corrected on that last time. Thank you, Kevin.
I did. I don't remember that at all, but
well, well, it's for us to say hi to each other and hi to the world. So
hi to the world. Yes.
Yeah. So how are you today, Kevin?
I am well. It's an interesting day.
Yes.
Because it is September 11th. And so I've kind of been watching some of the memorable memorials and things. And yeah, I guess that because you're like, it's 9/11, you want to have a good time, but you also want to be respectful. And it's just one of those dates, I think for those of us who live through it, you just never forget. Like, so, and so every time this day every time I hear 9/11 there, I always have the same memory, and it's me driving. I had a white neon, whatever the neons, I can't remember what the brand of the car was, I think Ford or something. And I was driving on the freeway. I was going to Christ Hospital in Oak Lawn in Chicago. And I was on my nephrology rotation. And I remember listening to the radio and they said a plane hit. And the first thing I had was, someone was doing their dumb thing with a little small passenger jet. And it was a bunch of ding dongs and they crashed into the thing. And then the second one hit and I was just about into the parking lot. And I remember, oh my God, this is not an accident.
Right.
And yeah, it's weird. Like I can just remember. And I remember walking through the hospital and everybody's just like glued to the TV screens and just knowing that the world had changed. So yeah, kind of a somber day, somber memories. And but not, I guess, it's I don't want to bring everybody down here, but it's just something to kind of remember. And I do think it was one of the events, similar, I think in 2020, I think has changed the world forever. But it just, it changed air travel, it changed everything.
Yeah.
So.
I think anyone who's 30 something or less doesn't really know the way the world existed before then, truly like in their adult life to really, well, I should say 20 something or less. So a few thoughts. One of which is where I was in my family practice rotation as a medical student. And I remember them saying something about, building got hit. And so I went into the break room and I was watching the live coverage. Mm-hmm. I actually saw the second one hit live. And then your heart dropped and you're thinking, holy crap, this is like, it was almost so surreal that it almost seemed like a movie, like it was created. And then, yes, things changed tremendously after that. And I remember at Costco buying within that year, I remember buying this like amazing it's like a lot of pictures in it. And it's the pictures of showing the bodies choosing to jump versus burning. And you can't really see the faces, but it's like, this again feels like a movie, and I knew that, not that I want to like think about that and have to make that choice, but I felt like to honor those that had like lost their lives and their life was altered by it, that I wanted to remember that day. So I remember buying this amazing book of kind of like going through what happened. And so I'm actually going to crack that open today to look at. But that day is uniquely my father's birthday. So today is my dad's birthday. So as much as it's a somber day and it really stinks for my dad to have that day associated with, what happened, um, I try to see a silver lining in that. And the other strange thing is my husband's father died the day on 9/11. My dad was born on 9/11, and all this happened on 9/11. So this day has a lot of meanings. My husband losing his father when he was 13 years old, super young, just beginning his teenage years, and didn't have his father in his life. And my father was brought into this world on that day. So as you can imagine, there's a lot that goes through my mind on this day. It's not just about New York. Ironically, my dad grew up in New York. It's a moment to recognize the change in history and a significant time in history. There's a lot more behind all of why that led to that day, but that's not for today's discussion. I'm glad you brought it up, and you can't ignore the fact that it actually happened. So, as many things in history, you can't just ignore it. We can learn from it. We can, it's just like anything, whether it's positive or negative. You don't have to memorialize bad things or bad people. But we should never just put under the rug things that happen, because I think as a society we can learn a lot. So, any thoughts?
Yeah, it is. You're not. I think those who, what is it? What they say? Those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it, kind of a deal. And there was a lot of moments and things that I think are important to remember. It was very interesting. I watched the end of Bush 2. His statements this morning in this speech that he gave at Flight 93, the memorial down in Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a really good speech. It was a really good speech, and it was kind of remembering, how the world was immediately after, at least how America was immediately after that occurred, and how united everyone was. I don't think I remember when they made the announcement from the Capitol building, and all the senators got together and they all grabbed hands. Mm-hmm. And it's just important to remember that there was a time when things were not as divided. I mean, we didn't agree then, but people were united. And Bush's speech today, and as much as whatever your feelings about him as a president or what ultimately came after 9/11, weeks and months down the line, it was just a good reminder that we were better, and we have a potential to be better. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so it's kind of a little somber.
Yeah, no, I think it's like people that are close to me, they say that if we could just have aliens come to this world, we suddenly wouldn't see so many differences amongst ourselves. Somehow, we can, it's just, you see a lot of this happening, and people play in teams or the military, or they go through something and together, and they go through some kind of strife. It bonds them. They feel more of a commonality versus significant difference. And so, unfortunately, that moment made us all feel vulnerable.
Yeah. And it created a tribe that quickly, did fracture. But yeah, yes. It is interesting, actually, the ability of humans to create an in-group over things such as that, which is a huge threat, or things as silly as all the blue colored eyes go over here and the brown colored eyes over there, and how that influences behavior. But
we can get very petty when we're not able to step back into better perspective. We lose sight of really what's really important. But everyone will have their opinion on that. But yes, I agree with everything. Well, as always, we always touch on what's happened in the podcast and what's coming up. Do you want to touch on that, Kevin, or do you want me to do it?
I think I can actually successfully navigate that this week, since the episodes are now highlighted, so my date impaired brain doesn't have to root through it and screw it up, which I think I've done for like months now. But we have the 4 episodes, that's 2 episodes that released. We have what is your default behavior, which is a discussion we had kind of about what actions do you take when you're under stress, and kind of understanding that. The principles behind it, which is really important, because if you want to change your behavior, you have to understand what your default is going to be. And then also wondered about, do you expect to be called doctor, which is really labeling, and how that kind of interweaves with your identity, your beliefs about yourself, how you expect others to address you, how that influences your behavior and your interactions with them, if perhaps those perceived needs are not met. So a couple interesting episodes there. And then for the two that are posting, one tomorrow, and then on next Thursday, we have what you need to know about the blue zones and the Power 9. I like that episode because there's certain things you think that everybody knows, and you would hope everybody kind of knows about blue zones and the Power 9. But for those who don't, blue zones was when Dan Buettner went around. I think he had a grant from National Geographic, and they were like, where do all the healthy old people live? Old being over 100, identified, I think 5 locations throughout the globe. Kind of fudged the rules a little bit, just so one of them was in the United States, which I always laugh when I think about that. And then identified what are the characteristics of these communities. What is it that they all seem to have that seem to be affiliated with not just a quantity of years, but a quality of years. So these are people over 100 who are walking, living, not in assisted living, but living independent in things. And so we talk about the blue zones and the Power 9, which is what they're kind of like words around that. So important if you're interested in kind of healthy quantity and quality of life. And then the next one was an episode about why you are not allowed to complain about something you never asked for. That has to do with relationships. I received that from an email from the John Gottman Institute, which is a marriage and family counseling relation. He's like the guru on relationships out of Seattle. And I like it, of course, because I like data, and he's got 20 plus years of data behind what he does in these observational labs, where he talks about, that statement just really hit me, because anyone who's in a relationship for any length of time, you just expect people to read your minds, right? And we get mad, but you can't complain if it's not something that you didn't get out of your brain and into the air, so that people can address it appropriately and at least are aware of it before you start complaining of it. So
definitely. And
some fun episodes.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to repeat yourself to remind people of what you really want, or emphasize the importance of it to you. Sometimes, just reminding them might help them realize the significance. So,
well, I think the first thing we can always just say is the first step is like everything. I mean, we should just call the awareness podcast, right? Because you have to bring a level of awareness to anything.
Yeah.
So whatever the type of relationship may be, and this actually translates into clinical practice. You can't complain about your patients not doing something if they're not aware of it. You can't complain about your patients living unhealthy lifestyles if you're haven't talked about what a healthy lifestyle is. We made these assumptions. Oh, these people are all obese, or they're completely non-compliant. But have you actually talked to them and figured out what it is that they know and they don't know? It's kind of interesting to me, because way back in my pain practice, when it was going through its transformation, and I started to spend a lot more time with my patients, and I remember you're getting more interested in health, and I was just kind of, well, what are you eating? What's your healthy lifestyle? And people would say, well, I eat a lot of vegetables. And I go, well, what's a vegetable? That seems like a dumb question. They like French fries. And they weren't being funny. They were serious, right? And so we make these assumptions quite often about people and this leads into this thing called the curse of knowledge, where we assume people know what we know, but that's simply not true. And so when you have, particularly in the physician world, where you have people who are really some of the most educated individuals in society, and we're dealing with people who have, predominantly the sickest people are oftentimes lower socioeconomic status. That includes generally less education in a lot of ways, and there's some reasons around that. And we assume that they know these things, and this frustration comes out. And really, we can't until we know, and we put into kind of the air what it is that we're talking about. Like, well, let's talk about what healthy living is. Let's talk about what healthy foods are. Let's talk about what healthy activities are. Let's talk about what healthy relationships are. And then once we have that revealed that, then if people decide not to follow through or be non-compliant, then we can have something to complain about, but really not before. So kind of a long-winded introduction to that particular episode.
Yep, absolutely agree. Yeah, awareness and, not just knowledge, but beliefs and denial and all these things kind of interplay in these situations. So, well, speaking of awareness, maybe of your own gratitude of things this past week, I figured I'll just segue out of the whole Blue Zones comments into, because Okinawa, what is the city that is one of the Blue Zones? Okinawa, Japan, right?
Yeah, that's it. Well, it's not a city, but that's a country.
Country.
That's not actually, it's not a country. It was a country
state.
until Japan took them over. Okinawa. It's an island.
Island. Okay.
Yeah, it's an island.
I had to pull it up on a map. So,
yeah.
You could tell me, you could see that my geographical understanding of that location is poor. But I have 3 Okinawan spinach plants that I ate from this past week. I was doing a Blue Zone behavior right there. So I was very proud of myself. Just walk outside and snip a whole bunch of leaves because I ran out of my greens that I bought from the store. So I supplemented with my own garden. It was beautiful. I love it. It's like my favorite thing.
Very cool.
About what I do in the backyard. So anyway, what's your favorite thing?
What is my favorite thing? I have so many favorite things. It's just hard. But I think I was just reminded I was doing some reading again, and I was just reminding how much I love reading, and I'm always frustrated that I don't read as much. And I probably have talked about this, but the frustration I have is I read. This is nonfiction. There's fiction too. I just kind of read that as it comes, and it's entertaining. But I love reading nonfiction, and I love reading about how things work. And so a book that I brought up more and more, like often, that I'm rereading a chapter whenever I get around to it, Stumbling on Happiness. And it's just like, I'm just amazed. Like I just read this stuff and I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. And then I get so frustrated because I'm like, I wish I just had an eidetic memory and I could just like imprint this stuff in my brain and then somehow incorporate it. But anyway, for the future, I keep looking at this stuff and I'm like, this is super relevant to change. This is super relevant to the change position. I'm like, we should do something and take some of these science-based principles and really create a change journal around this, where you can actually go through and do exercises around this specific stuff. It'd be super awesome. So anyway, that was my favorite thing this week, is rereading. In particular, that was chapter 7 that I was looking at in Stumbling on Happiness. It was my favorite thing this week.
Very nice. While you were talking, I had to go ahead and pull up the map for Okinawa. And this is interesting because I'd never known that Okinawa is a Japanese prefecture comprising more than 150 islands in the East China Sea between Taiwan and Japan's mainland. So the prefecture, which I've never really heard of, is, let me pull that back up, is a district under the government of a prefect, which...
like a state.
Let me just... it's a chief officer, regional governor in certain countries, so like regional governor. But I'm going to share, since I went through the trouble, share the screen of just the map of this is where Okinawa is. So Japan, all their prefectures, and there's Okinawa. So there you go. You heard it from me today. Okinawa.
There's a Navy base in Okinawa. I've had a number of friends. Actually, there's a hospital in Okinawa. I've had a number of friends that were stationed in. It was supposed to be a wonderful place for families. There's been some tension there with that military base, with some episodes that have occurred in the past. There's an interesting history to Okinawa as well, in particular relevant to Japan and Japanese history, if people are interested in that. And there was actually some really, really atrocious battles that occurred in World War II there as well. If anybody's ever watched the series The Pacific, it's an HBO series on World War II. It's the companion piece to Band of Brothers, which was the European campaign. It's it's an industry. I would love to go there. We've been to Tokyo and we really enjoyed Japan, but I would love to go to Okinawa someday as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be cool. Very
Maybe we
nice.
should have a retreat there sometime. We can talk to old Okinawans
Ooh, that'd be fun.
and eat Okinawan spinach.
Oh, that it proliferates. It's amazing. Like literally the big stem, there's like a leaf come out, and then there's from the same base, there's like other ones coming right before it. Like it is amazing. Like it just keeps going. It's pretty awesome. I can see why they probably use it as a kind of like a staple. You know.
Well, man, I'm like, maybe we should just grow some in our backyard here. That would be
good.
Just throw the seeds out.
Hey, you can buy a little, for like $15, get one that's like a little baby plant already, and then just transplant it and let it go.
Let it go. Let it go.
Not the song "Let It Go," but Well, why don't you take us out for Saturday Salutations?
All right, folks. Well, it's time for us to let it go on this Saturday Salutations, remembering 9/11, both the good and the bad, and the unity was associated with it. And we would hope that you would join our community at thechangedphysician.com. And you can see us live every Saturday at The Changed Physician on our Facebook page. We should figure out how to stream it to YouTube live, I guess, at some point. But anyway, until next time, folks, stay well.
Take care.